Hello, everyone. I am Jev, and I am the founder of the SVG Superstar Coaching Program. I help crafters with a full time job make extra income from selling SVG cut files in their sleep. So, in this video, I will be showing you how to create simple text based SVGs in Adobe Illustrator. And I will be sharing some of my super hot tips for creating perfect, easy to cut SVGs that I personally use for creating SVGs for Cricut. Yep, I work for Cricut. I was officially handpicked by Cricut to design SVGs for Design Space. And today I'll be sharing with you a tutorial including some of my hottest tips for creating the best SVG cut files. Let's get started. Now, if you are a crafter with a full-time job, stay tuned so I can show you how you can start making extra income from SVG cut files, just like my other clients, such as Jacqueline, who is a full-time attorney, just like Deborah, who is a full-time software developer, and Susan, who is a full-time freelance voiceover artist. I have students from several different full-time jobs who are now working on creating their super awesome SVG business on the side so that they can live their dream lives. So stay tuned till the end. So right after you open up Adobe Illustrator, this is what you're gonna see. Now to start off, we are gonna click on New File. I've been using this software for the past couple of 7 to 8 years. I started off my design journey with Adobe Illustrator, but then they introduced their subscription plan, which was out of my student budget. So I switched to Affinity Designer, which was much cheaper, one-off purchase of just $50. And since then, I've been using Affinity Designer for the past couple of 4 to 5 years. I started off by designing sewing patterns, then I switched to SVG cut files, which were much easier. So let's dive into the tutorial now. So to start, to create a new document, click on New File, and then I like to go to Art and Illustration, and I like to work in inches. So from the drop down menu, I'm going to select inches because it helps in visualizing the files in a better way, because on the mats you might have seen the measurements are given in inches and centimeters. So I've been working with inches for the whole of my life, so I like to use inches from here. And I like to make sure that the size of my artboard is extremely large, so I'm gonna go in with 40 by 40 inch, and I'm gonna leave everything as it is, and I'm gonna click on create. All right, so here we are. This is our artboard. So first of all, I am gonna select the text tool from here, and I'm gonna bring it to my artboard. Now there are two different ways of adding the text. So first of all, you can just click and you can see there's a tiny text over here. I can start typing. And the other method is by clicking and dragging to create a box, and I can write something here as well. Now to enlarge this text, I am going to select the selection tool, and I'm just going to double click. Let's zoom in a little, and you can see all these little boxes. These are called node. I can just stretch it from here to enlarge the text. Now you can see that doing this just distorts the text. So the other thing that I can do to make sure that the text maintains its proportions, I can click on the shift tool. I can click on shift on my keyboard and then stretch it to make it bigger so that the proportions are maintained. I can do the same for this one. I can increase the text size from the text edit panel. So as soon as I click on the text, you can see this text edit panel pops up. From here, you can change the font. So for example, this is a really cool font. I can use this font, and I can change the style type from here as well. I can change the paragraph type. I can change the area type as well from here. Now, one tip I want to share with you guys is that when you're creating text-based SVG, it's very important that you use uh, SVGs with commercial license. If you're creating SVGs to sell, you must use commercial licensed SVGs, even if you are gonna sell t-shirts made out of these SVGs. You have to use commercial license, or else you can get into trouble. And I know of a very successful SVG shop which got shut down because of a misunderstanding with the licenses. It was a very successful shop, and she was using one of the fonts by a font designer, and the font designer got really upset, and he filed a complaint against all of her listings, which ended up in her shop shutting down. So you got to be very careful if you are going to use fonts for your business purposes. What I like to do is I only like to keep commercial use fonts on my computer, or else I get really confused. So that's a little tip for you guys. Now I can change the font from here. My favorite font is Batavia Script, and you can see how cool it looks once you create the text using the Batavia Script. Now, the SVG is not ready yet for cutting with Cricut. So if you export this now as it is, it's not going to work in Design Space. Right now it's in the text format. So for this to work in Design Space, you gotta change it to a curve so that it's easily read by the software. The software cannot read this text design right now. Once it has been converted into curve, the software can easily read it. So to do that, what I am gonna do, I am gonna show you a couple of steps. But before that, if you wanna make this SVG even prettier, what you can do is you can go to Window, followed by Type, and then open up Character. Now you have a ton of new options to edit this SVG. So you can go to, I'm gonna show you guys one step at a time what all you can do. You can increase the distance between the two letters, the space between, increase the size. You can increase the space between two letters by clicking on the tracking tool, which is over here. So you can increase or decrease the space between the two letters. And you can also increase the paragraph size. We don't have two different lines, so that's not important. So now to add some beautiful swirls, what you can do is you can go to Open Type, and you're going to click on Stylistic Text, and you'll see a bunch of beautiful sets over here. So this is set 1. It doesn't look as good because you have so many extensions over here. So let's get rid of set 1. Then we have set 2. Not so good. Let's try set 3. Not so good. Let's try set 4. Not so good. Let's try set 5. This looks pretty nice. I might stick with this one. Set 6. This is also nice. Set 7. Set 8. And set 9. So I think I will go with set 6, and this looks pretty nice. All right. So this is totally optional. If you want it, you can do this. But if you want to skip it, that's totally fine. So what you need to do next is One thing I want to point out is that right now, as you can see, these lines over here are too small. One thing to keep in mind is we are dealing with a machine, and machine is built, has certain limitations. It cannot cut beyond a certain size. So we need to keep that in mind when we are designing SVGs. So we got to make sure that our lines are not too thin, or else it's going to create problems in while cutting. It will rip off the material, it will rip off the vinyl. A lot of times people have these issues that their material is ripping off, the vinyl is coming off, and the reason this could be is because the lines are too thin, the lines are too close together, which is why the blade is ripping the material off. And it's a cause of some real frustration, which is why when I am working with Cricut, they are very specific about the width of these lines. They want to make sure that all these lines are a bit thicker and not too thin. So to make these lines thicker, what you can do is you can go to the stroke panel and increase the size of the stroke. And as you can see, the text has become thicker than what it was before. So you can increase the size of the stroke until you're happy with what you have, what this looks like. Now that you have made the stroke thicker, you can select the whole thing and first of all duplicate it. I always like to duplicate every single design so that if I make a mistake, I can go back and edit it. So first of all, I have already duplicated it. Next, what I'm gonna do is select the design and I am gonna convert it to curve. So right click and create outlines, which will convert the text to curve so that it's easily readable by the software. If you don't convert it to curve, if you don't click on the outlines, your SVG will not work. So create outlines, and you can see there is a little blue outline, and we're going to fix that as well. Now I'm going to select everything and I am going to go to Object, Path, and I am going to outline stroke. So what happened now is we have, let's ungroup this and I can show you guys what's going on here. So now we have two different layers over here. So we have the thick outline layer and then we have the inner layer. And right now you can see all these letters can be moved around, and we don't want that. When we upload this design to Design Space, we want everything intact in place so that it's easy to cut, right? So let's put all these back to where they belong. Now, to make sure that everything is together when we upload it to Design Space, we are going to select all of these texts and we are going to go to the Pathfinder tools and we are going to unite everything together. And there you go. Once I clicked unite, everything has been merged together. None of the text, none of the letters can be extracted, and all the letters are merged together. When we cut them out, they are going to cut together as one whole word rather than single letter. And once we upload it in Design Space, it's going to cut out as one whole phrase rather than single letters. So this is what we wanted. But there's another step that you need to do. So if you click on this tool, which is direct selection tool, you can see all these blue squares. These are called nodes. Now you got to make sure you have the secret to creating perfect, easily cuttable SVGs is to have as less nodes as possible. The lesser the nodes, the smoother your design is going to cut and the happier your customers will be. So right now you can see there are tons of blue squares over here, and we don't want that. We want as less squares as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to click on the magical simplify. And as you can see, right when I clicked on simplify, so many of the nodes just disappeared, right? And if I click on show original path, these are all the nodes that were extracted that the software got rid of to make this SVG smoother to cut. All right, so what I like to do is just click on auto simplify. So the software uses its algorithm to simplify everything. We don't have to do it manually, because if you do it manually, you end up distorting the whole shape. So we don't want that. So I love to click on auto simplify. It makes life easier. And there you go. A ton of nodes have been eliminated, which means our file is ready to cut. So we need to understand it's not just about designing. You need to design easily cuttable files that are easy to cut and easy to work with, that your customers love. All right, so now my file is ready. I am gonna export it. Now, one more thing you got to make sure is that everything is attached together. So right now, if I click on this text, you can see this option ungroup, which means there are some letters which are not attached, and we can see S is not attached and the exclamation mark is not attached. So I'm going to ungroup this thing, and you can see we were right. Exclamation mark is floating around, so I'm going to bring it and attach it to E. I'm going to bring the S, attach it to U, and I'm going to select everything. And once again, I am going to go to my Pathfinder tool to unite everything. And there you go. Now we don't have anything that's floating around. Now, once again, we have the option of ungrouping. So let's ungroup, and both the words are separate. We don't want that. So once again, I'm going to select both of these, and this time I'm going to press Alt and then Pathfinder to create one complete shape, and the ungrouping option has disappeared, which means everything is now one whole shape. And now I can export this. So right click, select for export, add single asset, and now I'm going to export it as an SVG. Let's import it in Cricut Design Space. And there you go. Now if I take this to my mat, you can see everything cuts together, looks perfect, and you can start cutting it right away. So that was the complete step-by-step process on how to make a beautiful text-based SVG design, along with a ton of helpful tips in Adobe Illustrator. Now, this was just the tip of the iceberg. If you guys want to take this to the next level, if you want to start making money in your sleep, you want to set up a proper SVG business that makes 5 to 6 figures per year, then I would like to invite you guys for my free masterclass where I share my personal 6-figure SVG business formula, all the tips and tricks that I have personally used for creating a 6-figure SVG business. If you want to work with me, be sure to check out my free masterclass.